Sergei Prokofiev was born in the farming village Sonzovka, Ukraine, which at the time was part of the Soviet Empire. The child prodigy wrote his first composition at the age of 5 called Indian Gallop. And at the age 9, he was composing his first opera, The Giant, as well as an overture and miscellaneous pieces. At the age of only 13, Prokofiev becomes the youngest student ever accepted into the St. Petersburg Conservatory of Music. In 1912, Prokofiev premieres his first piano concerto in Moscow. In 1913 through 1914, Prokofiev visits Paris and London. Then he met Sergei Diaghilev and familiarized himself with the successful ballet Russes. Diaghilev commissions Prokofiev to write a ballet which became known as the Chut or the Buffoon.
First World War begins!
Prokofiev returns to the St. Petersburg Conservatory to avoid conscription, now to study
the organ!
The Tsar is overthrown by the communist Bolsheviks.
This is the year that Prokofiev writes his infamous classical symphony.
But we will study this piece later with the lovely Miss Korzinek.
New communist economic policies unfortunately led Russia into famine. Feeling that there is no room for his experimental music in this regime, Prokofiev leaves for the United States of America, home of the land, home of the free, in 1918.
There he receives a contract from the Chicago Opera House for a new opera named The Love for Three Oranges.
Carlo Gosi wrote the original Italian libretto in the Commedia dell'arte tradition, which is a form of theater characterized by masks and improvised performances based on sketches and scenarios that originated in Italy in the 16th century.
Luckily, Prokofiev had already drafted a libretto on his journey to the US of A based on Gosi's play. His adaptation modernized the libretto and gave it a touch of surrealism.
The realist works feature elements of surprise and unexpected juxtaposition, such as Prokofiev's experimental music.
The opera premiered in Chicago in 1921 using French libretto since Prokofiev had very little knowledge of the English language and Russian would be unacceptable to an American audience. It was therefore named
L'amour de trois oranges.
Due to financial difficulties, Prokofiev left the USA en route to Paris.
In 1923, he marries Lena Lubera, whom he had met in Chicago.
5 years later, Prokofiev composes his third symphony.
Stalin establishes the Union of the Soviet Composers. His cultural policy of socialist realism dictates that the main attention of the Soviet composer must be directed towards the victorious, progressive principles of the reality, towards all that is heroic, bright, and beautiful. Then in 1935, Mr. Prokofiev composes one of the most popular ballets, Romeo and Juliet, based on Shakespeare's tragic love story.
It consists of 4 acts and 10 scenes,
3 suites and 10 pieces for the piano.
It was first presented in 1940 at the Kirov Theater in Leningrad.
In addition to standard instrumentation, the ballet requires the use of the tenor saxophone,
viola d'amore,
and the mandolins, adding an Italian flavor to the music.
Second World War begins!
Government restrictions on music begin to loosen, allowing Prokofiev to compose more freely.
Russia was invaded by Germany and Prokofiev begins working on the opera War and Peace based on Leo Tolstoy's novel.
In 1944, Prokofiev composes his most famous symphony, his 5th symphony. Prokofiev becomes a target of government censorship known as Zdanovshchina.
In 1952, Prokofiev composes his final symphony, the Seventh.
One year later, Prokofiev died the same day as Stalin, age 61.